Welcome back, War Room fans. Oh, let me get my camera going. Okay, welcome back, War Room fans. So, we're starting up game turn 6 of game 13. So, let's see where we're going at. So, on the turn order, Russia, UK, USA all bid 2. Russia went top. UK, US went bottom. Everybody else bid 0. So here's what we're looking at. The Americans are coming over on Canada. America is coming out to A8. We got our big battle down here in A13. America's coming over. Now the UK, US canceled the France invasion. Notice the British came back to M1. We got some convoying in M2. We got the huge throwdown in Egypt. Now, Germany broke out. They decided to take the Caucasus. They're going into the Volga. Maybe get they will get our 2 infantry. They left a 4 stack in Bryansk. They're coming up with the Archangel. They're fighting up here. Everybody, and then the British came over into Finland. The 48th come out of Germany into Leningrad. Japan broke the pact. They're coming in on the backside. They're invading over here. They're coming up into Burma. Now Japan pulled their whole navy and everything back to P1. Allowing the Allies to come in on the Marshalls, into Wake, into the Marianas. The Americans pulled back to P3 off of Alaska. And that's where we stand after turn 6. Now, did you come in here? Oh, yeah, he brought in some units into Moscow. So we got an equal stack, 2 8s, and he's +3. So it's 19 against 16. So that's what's going on, and we'll be back after combat on turn 6. Okay, guys, we're back after combat in turn 6. So we can see where we're standing out in... Up here, what is this? This is A8. The American sub died, but the Americans finally killed off that sub in A3. The A13. The American sub bounced to A7 based on the new rules. We've stacked A6 big time. We're just staying status quo down here. Notice the Germans brought up the 48th out of Germany up into Leningrad. The 80th, which is an 8 stack, is in Finland. They took Karelia. They took Archangel. They took the Caucasus. They took the Volga. Now, up here, it's the Germans have a 8 stack against an 11 stack in Moscow. Japan broke the pact, came in on the backside. 23rd is sitting out here, and I don't even know what the heck that territory is. Kazakh. They took over here. Now notice that India has got an 8 stack building up. They took back Egypt. Japan is totally retreated to P1. And just building up air units, and they got their navy out there. The Americans are on the Marianas. The British took the Marshalls and Wake. America pulled back off of Alaska with their navy. And then on the stress wheel, Russia's in economic collapse now, so the Stalin rule has been violated. So the Western allies can come in. China's going up, and that's where the rest of the stress wheel is. So obviously Russia is on the brink. and they have no resources left. So that's their last build that they did in Moscow. And Stalin is freaking out. So that's where we stand, and we'll come back on turn 7. You're putting new carpet in. Okay, turn 7. So Russia, US, UK bid 2. Everybody else bid 0. Russia went top. US, UK went bottom. China is just holding the spot because they're dead. So here's what's going on. The US is coming out to A2 with some bombers and fighters. Germany is interdicting A8. We're coming into G3. Notice the Allies are bringing in a lot of reinforcements. Italy has invaded Sicily. They are very offended. So they came in there. Notice the U.S. 1st Naval Unit is interdicting. Up here, not much happened, though, besides the G3 invasion. The British are going into Karelia to help the Russians out. We obviously have our big battle up in Moscow. So the British are coming over to Iran now. Notice the Japanese went down into Singapore. So there's little pressure on India right now. Japan has completely retreated to P1. And they're going into the Marshalls with air power. The U.S. didn't send any air power. They didn't do anything over here. The U.S. is just kind of hanging out over there because they did all their commands primarily on the European front. So this is where we stand at the middle of turn 7. Welcome back, War Room fans. So, end of turn 7. Game's been called. It's over. Notice, Russia's in mass desertion. Because of mass desertion, we had to take off 7 units. They only have 2 armor left in Moscow. But also notice, Germany is in economic collapse. It's a total disaster. Allies are just flooding the zone now. Coming on over. They have France. They've got 5 stack of British and a 7 stack of Americans, plus all that air. They took Karelia back. They got an 8 stack, and that's not even an 8 stack. What is that? 2, 4, 6. Yeah, that's an 8 stack in Leningrad. They're definitely taking Moscow. That's no longer a contention. But notice all these little single stacks, double stacks. Italy invaded Sicily, took back Sicily from America, which really annoyed them for a stress point. But notice the Indian force is here, ready to reinvade the Caucasus to get them up 3 more points on stress. Got the defense here. Notice the Anzakians. Well, I know Bryce. Bryce is yelling at me. So the Anzakians are off there to take the Money Islands back because basically Japan has retreated to this fortress. I mean, literally the Americans, their fleet is like half the strength of Japan. But we're just sitting back here. We're ready to come up to Kamchatka, the dreaded Kamchatka invasion from anybody who plays Risk. So it was a really interesting game. I mean, the Allies won the game. The Axis have conceded. And they conceded primarily because of this, where the stress zones are. Okay? Because even if Germany takes Moscow They get 3 medals, and then you can see over here, they have 2 medals, but they already have 3 stress still sitting on them. And even if they take some territories, they can't drop down a stress zone, because what's going to happen is you calculate stress, and then if the Allies come up here into the Caucasus and take the Caucasus for 3 stress, the 80th goes here, inflicts 3 stress. Even, you know, they're going to go up to mass desertion, but then they'll just spend all their medals, go back down to economic collapse. So Germany can't get any resources now. Germany basically is out of the game when it comes to the economics of the game. They can't really build units anymore. And so even though they're going to take Moscow, Germany economically is collapsed. They're done. It's over. So that's how we called it. So, I mean, Bryce, what do you think? I mean, we've been talking about this for a little bit. Before I started this video, Bryce and I have been talking about this whole Moscow thing.
So,
what do you think?
Well, okay, so, you know, as any game that involves dice come into play, you know, obviously the battles are important. And, you know, it's just, for the Axis and World War II games, time is of the essence. And so every turn we would die roll a push, essentially. It cost us a turn. And, you know, as you get into, whether it's Global 40 or War Room, as you get into turn, you know, 5, turn 6, these pushes really become a big deal. And so, yeah, Moscow will probably fall next turn, but that's bare minimum of 1 turn too late, probably 2 turns too late. So that's an issue. You know, I mean, at this point, some of you, now we did tell you up front that we're playing with some of our house rules, which means Japan has their victory conditions. So you could make the argument, well, can Japan and Italy survive long enough to where Japan could possibly win the game? But if you just kind of look at the map, you've got the British have a stack that can go back to Australia. The Americans have a stack that can go to Alaska. The British have another stack that can go to India.
Yeah.
So
we could move that back to India.
You know, Germany and Italy.
Anzacians can move back there.
Germany could probably survive maybe another 2 turns, but that's just not long enough for Japan to actually win the game. So, you know, it came down to a lot of key battles were lost by the Axis. There were a few instances. Now, I played turn 1 and 2 for the Axis, and then Wendell played all the other turns for the Axis. And I can't remember if it was turn 4 or turn 5, but there was a possibility for the Axis to attack the Sea Force in
A6.
A6.
Yeah, and he didn't throw
it was you know, the Germans could have sent in their 2 cruisers and their sub, and then some subs from A13, and then all their planes.
He still had all his guys down here.
You know, there was a possibility where that could have really turned the tide of the war. It was high risk, high reward, but that's kind of the beauty of the game, right? So, you know, all in all, I thought it was a really good game. It was a lot of fun.
No,
I still am a huge fan of War Room, even though I still am a little weirded out by some of the combat results, but I'm still a huge fan, and it was a great game, and I look forward to, what was this, 13 or 14?
This was game 13.
So I'm looking forward to game 14.
Well, I think my takeaway from game 13 is we had a lot of jockeying of position of territories, which put a lot of stuff on stress, but also medals. Like, I didn't show when Bryce was doing the morale board while we're doing the last turn. It was insane. Didn't you run out of stress counters?
Oh, yeah.
Morale counters and everything. I mean, it was...
Well, I might be wrong. Isn't this the first time we've had mass desertions?
Yes, we've never had a mass desertion in the previous 12 games. And they actually put Russia up there, and it actually made a difference if we wanted to play it out. The whole thing, though, is just what happened here. You know, once this happened, it didn't matter what happened over there. If Germany could have somehow, and Italy, staved this off, maybe. But then once again, because we were trading so many territories, you know, it's like Brian Wassam, Global 40, he made his first video when he played War Room. He was just amazing how much stress everybody's taking from the back and forth of these territories. Because look at Germany. I mean, Germany's up there not because of combat losses. It's because we kept playing this Russian game over here, which is what I was talking to Coach or Wendell about, was one of the things about the game was Coach... he is adverse to spending oil on bidding. So I was always outbidding him with Russia. So Russia is just moving around, just taking free territories. There was a lot of free territories taken this game. I mean, uncontested territories. It was amazing to me that when we did the combat, Bryce and I were looking at the board going, okay, let's just do all the uncontested first before we move everything to the battle board. There must have been, what? Yeah. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 uncontested territories every turn.
Well, and
we're just landing on territories.
You have to realize, as a player of this game, there are some countries that the stress wheel affects worse than others. Okay, and you just have to understand that as a part of the game. And so, obviously, and I don't think Kevin would disagree with me, of all the countries in the game, the country that is the most sensitive to the stress board, it's Germany.
No, I would agree with that.
You know, and why is that? Well, because Germany is the most active in the first couple games, or first couple turns. So they're going to be losing a lot of units. But also, especially on the Russian front, if you get into this game of trading territories back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, I mean, you know, like if Germany takes, you know, the Caucasus, you know, Russia takes 3 stress. But if Britain or Russia takes it back, Germany loses 3 stress. Well, who does that affect more? It really affects Germany more. I mean, Germany is the most sensitive to the wheel. Now, like America is never, they don't lose territories. Now, they can lose ships, and ships do affect your stress a lot. But the reality is America is just not going up on the stress wheel. And even if they do, you know, does it really matter if America loses 3 resources? Not that big of a deal. If they go up another, which is very rare, does it matter if the United States loses their rail usage and their port advantage? No. Now, I mean, I guess if America went up another one, they lost 3 moving orders, that would be crushing to them, but because America's always short on moves. But we've played this game 13 times, and America's never gone up that
America much. In the third... America is never going to get up here.
So the stress wheel for America is pretty much irrelevant. Obviously, China doesn't care what's happening to them. Italy doesn't care what is happening to them. Britain, you know, losing rail usage is meaningless to them, but losing port advantage, that kind of affects them a little bit. But, you know, again, the stress wheel just is different for different countries. Stress wheel for Germany, man, you lose rail usage. You can't shift your units from Russia after you conquer it back to France, you know, and heaven forbid you lose 3 movement orders in Germany. Oh, my God. So anyway, you just have to keep your eye on
I
that.
think at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. The stress wheel only affects Germany, Britain, and Russia.
For the
Those
most
are the
part,
only three countries that are really concerned about the stress wheel.
Yeah.
Because it does affect their country. And you're right. Well, how does it affect Russia? Well, once Russia gets up to level 2 where they can't rail, they can't play the East-West game anymore with Japan.
Yeah, that can be an issue.
They can't do that game anymore, okay? With Germany, though, Germany, once they start coming into Russia, and they have to guard their back door all the time, and German territories have high strategic value.
Yeah.
So they can jump up real quick, real fast. Like if the Americans or the British just do a quick strike into France and say, to heck with it, we're just going to take it even though we know we're going to lose it the next turn. So let's just say America on their initial units, quick strikes France, takes it. That puts Germany up 1 on the stress wheel. Germany takes it back, moves, and then America takes 6 stress. But America can take, that's where all these, like we're talking about, oh, I don't care if they lose all these stupid outer islands. Well, those are metals. And America can move back down on the stress wheel where Germany can't. Germany doesn't have any freebie, I'm just going to go in here and take a territory, unless we're talking Russia collapse scenario where they start taking some of these free territories. So the Americans don't suffer it like Germany does. And, as Bryce and I were discussing off camera before we started the video, Japan, let's just take it back to Japan. Because at the end of the day, War Room is a more advanced version of, let's say, Axis and Allies.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's always the same. Japan has to go off the chain. They have to start destroying stuff. And that's either, as Bryce he's made his point, Japan on turn 1 or 2 has to come up here. I advocate Japan goes against Britain. But it doesn't matter, though. At the end of the day,
this is the difference between Kevin and I.
Japan has to go crazy. They have to destroy one of the 2 powers within the first 4 turns. So
Kevin and I, we are both in violent agreement that in Axis and Allies, Global 40, and in War Room, the key to the Axis is Japan going crazy.
Yeah.
Now, where Kevin and I wouldn't even call it a disagreement.
No,
I think it's a preference.
I don't. Yeah, it's a preference.
Kevin prefers to go after Britain in this game. I prefer to go after Russia. So all of you War Room fans out there, if you ever play me and I'm playing Japan, it's a fair assumption that I'm going to go after Russia in either turn 1 or turn 2. I just, for me, my argument has always been, especially if you're playing War Room and out-of-box rules. Because remember, the out-of-box rules is for the Axis to win, they have to take Moscow and Britain. So if you're playing out-of-box rules, my attitude is with Japan, everything you got goes to Moscow. Everything. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but I'm just telling you right now, if I see you at a tournament, if I see you at Board Game Geek in DFW, and you're playing me at War Room, that's what I'm doing. So, if I'm playing Japan.
Okay. Well, now that we know what Bryce is doing, he's given up the ghost on that strategy, which basically means he just bids 0 every turn. And because there's no point going first or last, doesn't matter. I'm just going in. Well, that gives you a tactical advantage if you ever play Bryce and he's playing Japan.
It would be a strategic advantage, not a tactical advantage.
A strategic advantage. You're absolutely right, sir. So, Bryce has he is given up the strategic advantage, I guess. So we just know what he's doing. But it was a very interesting game. And I mean, I just personally, everything we've talked about in our strategy and videos, I just thought it was a really interesting game because
Absolutely.
Going into the game, one of my theories was, can the Allies do the Rainbow Five? Remember, guys, I talked about a Rainbow Five. That it's we have to choose. Is it Britain up here in the Scandinavia region, or is it America down in the Med? And we could switch it depending on what you want to do. And this game, I went America heavy down here, UK heavy up here. And at the end of the day, though, you know, I'm a big proponent of just getting free medals. That was a lot of free medals. Yeah. That was a lot of free medals. Over there, I'm not going to move the camera, but on the Pacific side, a lot of free medals. And even if you're playing a game where Bryce and I play, where we played out to the end or where we decide the game's over, medals matter because they allow you to move down stress wheel. You know, if you're getting close, maybe throw in a commercial good or two, and then you can move down stress zones. Whereas we're playing the limited victory conditions, whereas I know on the Board Game Geek, guys are talking about, I just don't like, it just feels wrong that if I know I'm only playing the game turn 6, and then all of a sudden everybody puts all their production into commercial goods just to move down stress wheel. You know, up here on the limited victory conditions, you know, victory points, you know, I understand that. But if we use Thomas Gale's, the proposed rules, at the end of this game, the Allies are at 5, 9. So the Allies are at 9 points. The Axis are at 4. They're at 6. Okay? So at the end of turn 7, technically, the Axis won. They won the game.
Yeah.
So how does that make you feel when you look at the actual board and how the board is playing out?
I think
compared to a victory condition.
I think we should do a totally different video on tournament rules.
Yeah, we'll come up. We're gonna do an Officers Lounge number 4, and we're gonna go over the Board Game Geek thread on the limited victory conditions, because this specific game has totally opposite results.
Well,
the actual game, if we play it out, Allies win.
Yeah.
If the game ends, if we said the game ends after turn 7, who wins? Axis crushed it. They won the game.
Yeah, so I honestly, you know, for tournament rules, now, Kevin and I, we've played enough of these games with Global 40 and with War Room, and there are some ways where you could speed up play a little bit, but for the most part, it's always been, for both games, it's been about an hour a turn.
Yeah, it's about an hour a turn.
So if you're doing like a convention, it's a 4-day convention, and you need teams to play 4 or 5 games to get to a winner, and it's an hour a turn roughly, then that means you need games to end after turn 4 or 5, right? So yeah. we can come up, we should do a video on how we think you could do that with either Global 40 or with War Room. But I don't think the morale wheel just as is works, because again, this is a perfect example. Morale-wise, Axis is 1. But if you look at the board,
they're toast.
Germany is going to be done in 2 turns.
Yeah, so Germany's basically done.
And in this particular game, America really can't get fully into the game until about turn 4, 5, or 6.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, yeah, I mean,
it's just,
if you're the American player, you're kind of like, well, wait a minute. I don't even really do anything until the game's over.
Yeah.
So
no,
we got to come up with something different.
We're going to have that discussion in a different video because we do need to talk about
that is a definite different
the concept of if Nightingale or even Bryce and I threw a convention just for all the War Room guys to come and play, how would we do such a thing? Because I do know Grasshopper and Sired Blood and all those guys on the G40 side have done a lot of stuff for a tournament-style game, but I do think the way the game stands right now, my opinion is, if we're going to put that type of stuff on a game, I really do think we have to redesign how all the nations start the game.
Yeah.
I don't think how the game starts is sufficient. Because the United States is so far out in this game. The UK really is also far out in this game.
Yeah.
I mean, the UK really can't impose itself just like the United States until like turn 4 or 5.
Well, even if you're the Germans, if you're the German player and you know that you're only playing 5 turns.
Yeah,
then like turn 1, turn 2, you turtle. And just build units, and then you're waiting for turn 3, 4, and 5 so that you can just sort of do a quick expansion and then stop.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah,
and then what are the allies going to do?
Yeah, I haven't posted that. I did want to post that on the Board Game Geek forum when we're talking limited victory conditions. Is the reality of the day is we have the out of the box rules. Okay?
Yeah.
We expanded them by saying the Stalin rule because obviously we realized the player base realized it's all about Russia.
Sure.
So we put the Stalin rule in to kind of slow it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, though, so now we're changing the victory conditions of the game.
Yeah.
You know, like you and I changed the victory conditions. Japan can now win the global game.
Yep.
That's a change. Another change is well, if we just say an optional rule is the game only lasts 6 turns, well, then every strategy is based on 6 turns.
Absolutely.
And if we go, well, but my group, we can only realistically play this game for like 5 hours. So it's victory conditions after turn 4. Well, if we're playing victory conditions after turn 4, the United States is, in essence, out of the game. Besides their initial units.
Yeah, which isn't anything special.
And no matter how you do the point determination for a turn 4 victory check, it just, I guess at the end of the day, what I'm saying is we're all coming back to the same thing, is that every time you change the victory conditions, it changes the meta.
Sure.
It changes how you approach the game.
Sure.
And that's, at the end of the day, that is what it is. And I think, personally, every game group has to decide that for themselves.
Yeah.
It's not something that Nightingale needs to come down on high and say, this is how you win the game.
Yeah.
Well, they already did that, didn't they? In the rule book?
Yeah.
Saying that this is how they win the game.
Which works fine if you're just playing in your house.
Mm-hmm.
Really the victory conditions only become an issue if you're trying to play like a tournament style, where you need to get games going fast.
Yeah, we got to resolve this quickly, and you're absolutely right. One thing I will say about the game though is, if you're playing with experienced players who know how the game works, meaning the physical mechanics, let's do these battle boards, let's do this thing. You can knock out the combat phase quick.
You can, but it's still about an hour a turn.
No, but numerous times, like in the last turn, turn 7, we knocked out. We probably had like 12 hotspots, but we knocked out like 7 of them in like 10 minutes.
Well, and
it's just, there's a certain point in the game though where
truth be told, when we're playing, we're drinking beer and we're talking about politics and we're talking about the weather and stuff like that. And so, you could probably in a tournament style, you could probably shorten up a turn to maybe 40 minutes or something like that.
Well, sure, especially if you have experienced players playing and everybody's focused and not
it's still
BSing.
It still takes time.
Well, no, it does. But, you have double battle boards going. And in our specific game, this one, we had so many turns where we go, okay, let's resolve combat. And like half the battles were literally just notionals.
Yeah, notionals.
Just doing a little convoy.
A lot of notionals, a lot of convoys.
And so when it actually came down to it was, we only had like real, like maybe 3 combats.
Yeah.
We had to pull to the combat board.
Well, that's another thing that's very interesting is, you know, so if you buy the latest expansion pack, it comes with a timer.
The nano expansion. Oh, well, no, that was in the I don't know what the hell.
Well, whatever, but you can buy a little timer.
Yeah, you have the sand timer.
Okay, and so everybody you get 10 minutes. Okay, that would certainly help with us. But another thing that would help time-wise, because, you know, again...
Signature edition.
The signature edition, you get the little timer. The other thing that's interesting, though, where we waste a lot of time, if you want to call it wasting, is when you're doing a big battle, is the struggling over how you set up the battle board.
Well, that's
you could also put a timer on that.
Yeah.
Okay, dude, you have 2 minutes. 2 minutes to figure out how you're setting up your units, and just set them up. You got 2 minutes.
No, that's true.
You know, and
no, you're absolutely right. Especially the guy, it's not the guy who has to set up first. However you determine that.
Yeah.
Whether it's out of the box rules or how we play it, it doesn't matter. The guy who sets up first, usually...
It's pretty quick.
It's pretty quick. It's not really that big of a decision for him.
Yeah.
But it's the attacker. Or the aggressor.
Whoever sets up second.
Yeah, the second guy, then he starts getting into the whole, well, how do I optimize everything?
What's my maximums and all that.
He's moving guys all over the battle, on the battle board over there, and it takes like, dude, I mean, I've been sitting here for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's
just it.
I've watched 2 reruns of The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And you're still setting up over here? Come on, buddy.
And so that is actually, you know, if you're talking about playing tournament, you know, and getting games done fast, that is an interesting thing because you say, well, who cares if it takes 5 or 10 minutes to set up the board? Well, you multiply that times 20 battles.
Yeah.
And that's a long time.
Yeah, you got
that's an extra 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, you got 2 hours just setting up battle boards.
So that's another interesting dynamic.
Now, I will say this: Thomas has pointed out numerous times on the forums that they're going to have the quote quick combat system. I'm very interested to see what this quick combat system is.
Yeah,
and I think personally, me and Bryce just want to see it.
Yes.
But because the way our game group works, we can leave this battle board up. We can leave this game up for weeks on end. We can play it out till turn 15.
Yeah.
We don't care. But I acknowledge there's a lot of groups who get together and say, on a Saturday, we're going to start at 10 a.m. and we're playing till 10 p.m. or midnight, and they want a resolution. I get it.
Yeah.
I do get it. So, but I want to see what this quick resolution is, because I personally don't think it would be a fair and equitable solution, but I want to see what the system is.
Yeah.
I want to roll the dice. I think everybody, at the end of the day, wants to roll the dice. And you know, that's how it goes.
So I have always said since the first day we cracked this game open that I break this game down into 2 components, a strategic component and a tactical component. And what I mean by strategic is all the broad-based turn moves and all that. What I call tactical is when you go to the battle board. Strategically, the movement, the production, everything, I just love. I love this game. The battle board. I've said this on a bunch of different videos. I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's just something about that battle board that is just rubbing me the wrong way, and I can't put my finger on it.
Are you sure it's not the dice?
That's part of it, but still, there's something weird about it. But I have heard that Larry and Thomas are trying to come up with a combat system where you can resolve combat very quickly, but get an expected result. Now, we can argue ad infinitum about what an expected result is, but I am interested in seeing what that is. I don't know if that applies to Global 40 and War Room and all the games Larry's ever done, or just War Room or whatever. I don't know, but I'm interested to know what that is. And quite frankly, War Room fans, if you've got an idea, I would love to hear it. I mean, I'm willing to try anything because I just love the gaming. I mean, I truly love the gaming.
No, I mean, so, I'm there with you, Bryce. I mean, you know, we've played so many games together of this, and the fans know your lamentations about the dice and how your dice rolling's bad. But at the end of the day, I guess what it comes down to.
Well, I don't want it to be just about my dice rolling. It's also about the time. It's also about the time it takes.
But it is about the time it takes. But also, that's the whole thing about wargaming just in general. What always annoyed me about like World in Flames was, especially like the early editions, before it was a 2d10 system and a d6 system, where you always had that, you just have to roll a die, and if you roll a 6, you win.
Yeah.
And it was just all based on luck. It seemed like even World in Flames, which is a very complex system game,
yeah,
sometimes some battles literally just come down to, if you roll the die and you get the lucky number, it doesn't matter. Tactics go out the window.
Yeah.
Battle plans go out the window. The guy rolled the lucky die against me. What am I supposed to say? Or what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
You know, Gibraltar fell because of some stupid, he could only take it if he rolled a 6, and he picks up the 6-sided die and rolls the 6. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
You know, that's how games, but that goes beyond just World War II games, and specifically
sure,
this game. That's just how games sometimes go.
Yeah.
And, you know, and we deal with that, but I
agree.
I agree.
My comment was more on the time.
No,
supposedly Thomas and Larry are working on a combat system that will reduce the time.
Well,
and I'm all for that.
Hey, I'm fine with reducing time.
Yeah.
I did post on Board Game Geek about why are we so fixated on making this game like very fast.
Well, it's the tournament rules.
Well, I understand, but I'm also looking at it from this perspective. We've now played 13 games on video.
Yeah.
We've played the Pacific War on video. We've played the European War on video.
Yeah.
Every game basically is 6-7 turns.
Sure. Before you know what's going on.
Yeah, we've never played a game that went beyond 6 or 7 turns in this game, where after the end of the 7th turn, we're looking at the map going, it's still up in the air.
Agreed.
I don't know what's going on.
And that's the same with Global 40.
Yeah. I mean, there's a certain point in this game where it's a 6-turn game. Maybe 7 turns.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a 6-7 turn game where one side or the other, where anybody who's played this game will look at the map and go, it's over.
Yeah.
Just like G40.
Sure.
I mean, all the experienced G40 players could look at a map after turn 9, look at the map and go, one side or the other. They've won. Well, and there's no point in continuing.
So I think the issue, Kevin, is that there's 2 parts of this. One is there are gamers like us that want a resolution in a night.
Sure.
But then I think there's also, like my son, the younger gamer, their attention span is such that they can't even really conceive of playing a game over 2, 3, 4 weeks. They're just they're just, that's just the way their attention span is. And that's why, like, there probably is maybe 3 people on the face of the planet under the age of 40 that are playing World in Flames. Because their brain can't conceive of playing a game that takes 6 months to play.
Sure.
I mean, they just can't even see it. So I think that's why people are trying to speed games up. They're just like, okay, how do we get this done in a night? How do we get this done in a night? Well, War Room, I mean, unless you're going to dedicate an entire Saturday to it, like you said, 10 in the morning till midnight. War Room, if you're going to dedicate, say, 4 hours a night, it's going to take 2 nights, maybe 3 to get to where you're looking at the board saying, okay, the writing is on the wall. Which, I mean, I've got a game room, I've got a table that I can dedicate to this, so 2 or 3 nights is fine.
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't care what group you're playing with. Maybe the 1% group where the Allies only win if they actually capture G1 and J1. Yeah. Who's going to play it to that point?
Yeah, there's no point.
There's no point. Which 99% of game groups would just look at the map like we're looking at right now. It's over. Give it 2 turns with everything coming over. It's over. So what's the point of even continuing this game? But they're
for the Allies to take Japan in this situation.
No, Japan.
It would take what?
Oh,
4 or 5? No, maybe 6 turns.
5, 6 turns because the way.
And again, we've been averaging about.
The way Japan is completely fortified Japan to the point of they almost outnumber the American Navy right now 2-1. Not quite. I mean, we got a 6 stack of Navy there, and we just built a full stack there. But still, it's going to take forever. It would take, in War Room terms.
It would take another 4 to 6 hours.
For the U.S. to actually take Japan.
Which for us would be another 2 gaming nights. Which could be another 2 weeks. And so the question really becomes, do we really want to do this?
Yeah, do we really want to just roll dice and have fun?
And see, that's the argument I've had, like with Global 40. When I play it, even when I play it on AAA, for instance, I always tell Kevin, I say, when you play Global 40 on AAA, my thing is, if you're playing the Allies, try to beat the AI in 12 turns. You can't do it.
Yeah.
And the AI is not really that smart at playing Global 40. And so you sit there and say, well, who cares? I can still beat them. Well, okay, fine, you can still beat them. But if you can't beat them in 12 turns, think about that in playing in your house. That's 4 weeks, a month, maybe.
Yeah, depending on your game group. And
depending on how fast you play.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's like, but yet the writing is on the wall by, say, turn 6. So it's like, okay, do you really want to play these next 6 turns?
Yeah.
And then, you can put in the human factor, which is, let's say you're the Axis. And you're like, well, I failed at my big battle to take Moscow. So now I just know that the next 6, 7 turns is just me getting my ass beat. Do I really want to do this for the next 2 nights? I don't think so. So, there's that element, And
that always goes down to, that's the number one problem with any World War II game. Doesn't matter who, the make, manufacturer, anything.
Yeah.
Is that basically a World War II game is the Axis get X amount of turns, regardless of the system they're playing.
Yep.
They get to blow out, and if they fail, then the game's over.
Pretty much.
And so, if you're playing the Allied player, you actually get no enjoyment. You get no upshot. All you get is this.
You don't get the enjoyment in terms of killing units.
Yeah.
You get the enjoyment of winning.
Yeah, you get the enjoyment of winning, obviously. But you don't actually get the enjoyment of, like, invading, like, Germany and France and doing your island hopping campaign and all these grand plans you had. Because basically the Axis just say, they look at the board and go, I concede.
Yeah.
It's over.
We've lost this major battle, this major battle, this major battle.
We lost this. And
it's like, what's the point at this point?
Yeah. So then I guess that ultimately comes down to, well, because I didn't roll the right dice. Or this happened or this happened, and it's I don't know. That's the but that's not a war room complaint. That's a just World War II game in general. All World War II games come down to the same thing.
Yep. If you're the Allies, you have to somehow avoid the catastrophic defeat on the early side.
Yeah, and you're just hanging on, and then the minute you finally get over the top, okay, we're going to turn the tide on them, and the Allies can actually start making aggressive moves. That's when the Axis say, it's over. I concede.
Yeah.
And so you never get the satisfaction.
But it also is what takes these games that don't have turn limits, or turn limits, but really kind of give them sort of de facto turn limits.
Well, that's true. I mean,
and I'm okay with it because when Risk 2023, or I can't remember what the year
Risk
is.
2210
but when that Risk game came out and it was 5 turns, that was one of the funnest games I ever played. Yeah, me personally, I hate the original Risk game. I think the original Risk game is stupid, but when Risk 2021 came out or whatever,
2210,
and it had the 5 turn limit.
Yeah,
I thought that was genius. I truly thought it was genius, and I loved that game. And you could make the argument that Axis and Allies Global 40 and War Room, you could make the argument that it's really a 6 or 7 turn game. Now, there are some small occasions where after 7 turns, the game is still in the balance. But pretty much every game I've played of Global 40 or War Room, after 5-6 turns, you pretty much know who's going to win.
Yeah, I mean, it's up in the balance. I mean, in this specific game, we started the video up on turn 6. It was still in the balance, but because the decisions made, the dice being rolled, the tactics we employed, after turn 7, it was over. It was a 2-turn game. That's what it was. So, okay, guys, we're going to cut it for the night.
1 second.
And,
I do have one shout out.
Bryce has a final shout out.
Just one shout out. I had the pleasure of play testing a couple weeks ago Imperial Borders, which is the next game for Nightingale Games. And I just wanted to say that I had the pleasure of meeting Larry Harris and Thomas Gale. And it was an absolutely wonderful experience for me. Talking to them and getting into their mindset and all that was awesome and informative. I've had the pleasure of meeting my ultimate idol, which was Gary Gygax in 1999. And I've always heard, you don't want to meet your idols because they always disappoint. That is not true. Meeting Gary Gygax was one of the most coolest, most seminal moments of my life. And I'm going to put that the second most wonderful, seminal moment of my life was meeting Larry Harris. I can't tell you how much time and energy and effort and die rolling I've put into Larry Harris games. And it was awesome. And I just want to put a shout out to Larry and Thomas and all that for just the absolute most coolest games that I've spent time playing and shooting the shit with my friends and arguing over rules and complaining about dice rolling and all that. It's just been so awesome. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. And I hope, people enjoy the game as much as I do.
Okay. We're going to end it on that. So that's the conclusion to game 13. Game 14 coming up at some point. And I've been in contact with a lot of guys on the Facebook page and a couple guys on Board Game Geek. So hopefully on game 14, we have some new blood in the house. Some guys who are itching to play the game. And so me and Bryce can hang out with those guys and get game 14 up and rolling. Talk to you guys later. Bye.